Thank you for all the support on the last video. I cannot thank you all enough. Welcome to Reform Review, the show that gets facts right about your least favourite language reforms. I'm the Casual Conlanger, and in this episode, we'll be looking at the reform with two names, Parallel English, or Globish. The reform, designed by Madhukar Gogate, actually has two names. Globish was its original name, and the substitute name Parallel English was made because of a trademarked subset called Globish designed several years after. In 1998, Parallel English was presented to the now English Spelling Society, then Simplified Spelling Society, as an artificial dialect of English. It aimed to A. become a global English spelling system, and B. prove that English can be simplified. Parallel English has gone through several iterations, as recently as 2014. In Gogate's very self-aware proposal, many of the reasons why any English spelling reform or simplification couldn't possibly be implemented are brought to light. As an example, quote, "Dictators can force people to take a new script or respell words, but USA and UK, the main English users, are democracies." Anyway, let's review this reform. Beforehand, let's explain a few concepts. In linguistics, a phone is any distinct speech sound whose exact properties aren't strictly necessary for the meanings of words in a given language. They are absolute. The study of phones is called phonetics, and its transcription is written between square brackets. Meanwhile, a phoneme is a speech sound in a given language whose properties are necessary to the meanings of words. Swapping one phoneme for another in a word would change its meaning. Phonemes are relative to a specific language. The study of phonemes is called phonology, and its transcription is written between slashes. For example, the English words pad and pat end with two distinct phonemes, d and t, and swapping one phoneme for the other would change the word's meaning. In contrast, the difference between the p sounds in pat, p, with aspiration, and spat, p, without aspiration, never affect a word's meaning in English. That means p and p are two distinct phones, allophones of the same phoneme p in English. As in those examples, a language's phonemes, rather than its phones, are typically reflected in its writing system. A grapheme is a functional unit of a writing system, like letters in the English alphabet. There are monographs, such as A or B, and multigraphs, like the digraph NG or the trigraph SCH. Graphemes sometimes represent more than one phoneme. For example, X represents the sequence x, or voiced x, in many Romance and Germanic languages. The study of graphemes is called graphemics, and a language's writing conventions are its orthography, or spelling. Both are notated with angle brackets, which brings us back to Parallel English. Spelling reforms are often designed when it's felt that a language's graphemes don't correspond coherently enough to its phonemes. Therefore, having simple and logical graphemes is key. With one grapheme per phoneme, phonemic orthography, aka phonetic spelling, is ideal for this. With their highly irregular spelling, English and French have deep, highly non-phonemic orthographies, which explains why so many call for reform in them. Meanwhile, languages with more regular spelling, such as Japanese, Swahili, and Spanish, have shallow, almost phonemic orthographies. Phonetic spelling reforms, including Parallel English, have a major advantage over their non-phonetic counterparts, because a specific rule doesn't need to be made for each ambiguous spelling. A problem that arises, however, especially with vowels, is diacentrism. A neologism of mine in linguistics. It's the idea that one or a group of closely related dialects is default, resulting in a creative bias, particularly with the choice of vowel graphemes. Often the downfall of global spelling reforms, it's the reform equivalent of Eurocentrism in global IALs. Now, because Parallel English reworks English orthography from the ground up, we can look at its phonology. First, to make a comparison, let's remind ourselves of the standard English consonant inventory. Well, here it is. In italics are the marginal phonemes, the hy in hue, the ch in loch, and the hw in white. W and hw are co-articulated, meaning they are pronounced simultaneously in two places. Here, the lips and the soft palate. So, here's how they all sound. M, n, ng, p, t, ch, k, b, d, j, g, f, th, s, sh, hy, h, h, v, th, z, j, w, l, y, hw, r. Consonant pronunciation is unchanged when speaking Parallel English unless your dialect has marginal phonemes. Without a single mention or consideration, Their exclusion complicates learning parallel English for some speakers. Preferably, h should be reanalyzed as k or h, hy as hy, and hwa as hwa. Ng wasn't given a grapheme, probably because Gogate didn't use the IPA, but we'll represent it with NG as it appears in some later sources' examples, but only word finally. Speaking of NG, moving on to digraphs. These 6 are extremely common in spelling reforms, and despite their logical addition, DH and ZH just look off to me. Additionally, the letter C is only used in the digraph CH, which could have been fixed by changing K to C. Now for the vowels. Let's remind ourselves of the English diaphonemic vowel inventory. Diaphonemes are the average representation of phonemes of a multiple dialect language. These diaphonemes correspond to certain lexical sets, groups of words that share a sound. If you live in the US, you probably say trap and bath, meaning they are merged, whereas mine pronounces them differently, trap and bath, exhibiting a trap-bath split. The names of these splits and mergers are based on Wells lexical sets, used to compare vowel variation across English dialects, or 2 words that are pronounced the same in a given dialect, like the cot-court merger. We could go a lot more in depth, but that's for another video. Back to the table. This is how the diaphonemes sound. I, u, e, o, a, o. And here's how parallel English's phonemes sound, I think, since Gogati didn't use the IPA. I, u, e, o, a. Parallel English also has a few diphthongs. I, oi, ow. Where are the other usual English diphthongs? Well, we'll see in a second. This is where parallel English diverges from English and becomes its own dialect. See, in the source's examples, certain words weren't written the expected way for their standard pronunciation. For example, the word usually in the comma lexical set, would have the expected spelling a, but it's spelled e, because in parallel English, it's in the dress lexical set. Not only that, but words like rainbow and hot are in the same lexical set, lot. There are some clear dialectal differences here. So let's compare parallel English to the diaphonemes, as well as to Indian English, to see if Gogati's assumed accent has had an influence on the vowel phonemes. Like Indian English, Gogati's dialect includes the strut comma merger, so words with an like bus are pronounced instead with a schwa, sounding more like bus, and therefore spelt BAS. This isn't a problem in most cases, but looking at verbs like to run, it's very confusing for run to be spelt RAN. The dialect also exhibits the coat-cot merger, so cot and coat are both pronounced cot, and the face lexical set is pronounced ear. These 3 features are rare cross-dialectically, and even more rare altogether. Parallel English's vowels seem to be very diacentric, taken directly from Indian English, which itself has been heavily influenced by Indo-Aryan languages such as Marathi, Gogati's mother tongue, and Hindi, the most spoken Indo-Aryan language and Gogati's third language. In spelling, diphthongs are monophthongal sequences, so sight could be inferred as sight or sight. It isn't the worst choice, but creates confusing sequences such as AAI or AAY in the words like and subscribe, and AAU in wow, what an amazing video. An apo is used to separate 2 consecutive vowel sounds in misleading vowel sequences. For example, cooperate gains an apo, so it isn't misread as cooperate. A hyphen is used for consonant clusters, so hard hat isn't mispronounced harvat. Additionally, ellipses replace full stops at the end of sentences, and capital letters are reserved for proper nouns and unadapted words. Time to test parallel English and see how it does. First up, which consonants are phonemic? Aside the special cases of nga, absolutely all of them. What about vowels? Apart from the ambiguity with I, they're fully phonemic. Time to look at the 30 words from last time, with their parallel English pronunciation to the right. Try it out if you want. Misspell, pharaoh, weird, intelligence, pronunciation, handkerchief, logorrhea, chiaroscurist, pochemuchka, gobbledygook, nauseous, indict, fish, liquefy, Wednesday, sherbet, bologna, playwright, fuchsia, minuscule, ingenious, sacrilegious, accommodate, orangutan, mischievous, gubernatorial, acquiesce, conscientious, paraphernalia, and onomatopoeia. These 10 words are made longer because of the ridiculous vowel graphemes, and these 13 are made shorter and easier. a better result than for cut spelling, which only improved 10 words of the 30. Final test. Do all the rules fit on one page of 11-point Constellas text? Yes. Well, it seems like Parallel English is knocking these tests out of the park. The following extracts of Parallel English were taken from Glimpses of Globish, published in 2014 by Madhukar Gogate on his website. Remember, this is with the Parallel English accent, not my own. Necessity is the mother of invention. His daughters went to a school. A grand rainbow was seen in the sky. Call a taxi. Mankind needs an easy link language. We like Globish and wish it success. Sorry for all the mispronunciation. That was difficult. I guess I don't mind Parallel English. It did well during test time, and its near phonetic spelling makes it quite a simple spelling reform, but it's let down by its vowels. Its graphemes are unintuitive, and its vowel inventory is extremely diacentric. It's difficult to learn for the 90% of English speakers who don't live in the Indian subcontinent, contradicting its global ambitions. All in all, I like Parallel English less than I like cut spelling, making it the second best spelling reform I've reviewed. However, as the only artificial dialect I have reviewed, it's currently my favourite dialect. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, where I'll be reviewing Hoss.